Okay everyone, welcome back to another video on Gran Turismo Sport. We're back with the FIA Nations highlights at Spa in the Group 3 race, although it was select Group 3 cars, although in top split it was pretty much an Audi R8 single make race. So this was slot 4 of the day, it was top split, points were over 400 still available, some very fast drivers still in the lobby. Mahata actually put it on pole with an extremely good lap there, well done to Mahata. Rick there in P3, a world finalist driver, very fast driver in this lobby, and a lot of other very fast top split drivers in this race. We managed to put it on P5, so pretty happy with that. It wasn't really the best lap if I'm honest, but we got lucky to start in P5. So we wanted a bit of luck for a change, because the first few races we had been took out at the start on the standing start and had quite a lot of bad luck during the first 3 races. So this is 4th race. We get a really good start there, actually jumping the car on the left, and we're going to stay to the right hand side because this is where you want to be. However, look in the mirror here, we have a driver that has just completely missed his braking and wipes into us there on turn 1. Quite frustrating. However, what I like to see here is he knows he's made the mistake and he actually waits and backs out, lets all them drivers back through that he's just probably ruined. So that is very nice to see, and much respect to that driver for actually doing that, because it's very rare you see something like this. But however, as we come to the top of the hill, we had to go over the left hand side of the curb because the driver in front of us completely got it all wrong, and we get a penalty for that. So kind of annoying, because we get half a second penalty for trying to avoid a crash because he was all out of control and we just had to go to the left there. So yeah, a bit disappointing that we managed to get that half-second penalty, but that's the way it is in these races. So we're still in P5, and the good thing about the penalty zone here is it's not too bad. We should be able to stay in the slipstream to P4 if we stay pretty close to him. But yeah, remember people, if you do enjoy these videos and you do like these highlights videos, do hit the thumbs up button. It really does help me out, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any future videos and live streams. So yeah, we're following behind P4 now, still in the position we started. So obviously we've lost a position from the start where we got hit there. We did get ourselves back up into 4th position. We're now in 5th position, and following very closely, looking at the replay cameras again, looking amazing on GT Sport. And we're taking this Audi R8 round Spa, seeing if we can control it. Now this was a very tricky car to control, but however, what I will say is the Audi R8 has definitely improved with the setup somehow. They have definitely altered something in the setup with this car, because even on hard tyres this car was a lot more controllable. Now obviously the car is known to have slightly worse than average tyre wear, but it's not as bad as cars like the Ferrari or Lamborghini, so the tyre wear is actually a little bit better than them cars. I do think they have done something to the handling though to make it a little bit more stable, which is probably helping the tyre wear as well. But as we watch the cars all going through there, you can see a bit of a gap developing between P5, myself, and the drivers behind, so that's nice. It gives us a little bit of a cushion in the braking zone so we don't have to panic too much as we work our way through the final chicane and onto the start straight, and still in P5. You can see the gaps very close between the top 5, working our way over the line. Now we've got to think about taking this penalty, and hopefully we can stay as close as possible to P4. You can see getting as close as we can through there. We want to be right up behind P4 here as we take the penalty, so that we can get back in the slipstream and work our way back up to the back end of that car, because it's going to be very close here as we work our way up the top of the hill. We try and stay close to the right hand side there. Very difficult to do that corner when you're right behind another car as well, with that little bit of dirty air and the extra speed you're taking. So we're going to take this penalty, going over the penalty zone there now. We lose a bit of speed, but we stay in the slipstream. We're going to stay to the left, and luckily we've got enough of a gap to P6 that we're not going to lose that position. So we've got half-second penalty, but at the moment we're managing to stay in the same position. You can see we've nearly lost the slipstream there, so we're going to have to drive quite aggressive now as we're trying to push to make sure that we get back in it. So braking very late into that corner. See, maybe a little bit too late, but that's going to give us the ability to square the car off and get on the pound nice and early. You can see we've actually managed to get back into that slipstream quite comfortably now. And yeah, we've just got to try and concentrate and stay behind, and maybe think about making some moves in this race as we approach this really fast long left hand corner. This was actually one of the corners that I really did enjoy with the Audi R8. Such a nice car for these type of corners where you can really attack them and carry the speed through the corner. And again, when you get this section right, it was really nice, as P4 makes a little bit of a mistake there, runs a little bit wide. That's going to give us the ability to get a little bit closer. You can see we're pretty comfortably in the slipstream now. We've got Steve Gaming behind us also, getting pretty close to us, and there's a bit of a gap between Steve and P7. So going through the second sector split, trying to hook this corner up, running very close to running wide there onto the curb, and almost going a little bit too far. That corner is very easy to run out, I have to say. I've seen it done so many times. Now we're coming up to the long, fast left-hand corner. This is almost completely flat out. You can see there a little bit of a lift, and we have a massive moment on the curb. Luckily, we managed to keep that settled and didn't lose control as we work our way into the chicane. And we see Lopez is going for a move on Rick up the inside. This is going to give us the ability to actually get very close to Lopez now. So while we're right this close to him, I decided to just stay in the slipstream, and then right before the braking zone, we're going to pull out that slipstream, go up the inside, and try and take this corner as tight as possible. We've got to give him space on the outside there because he's held the outside line, and we give him the space and a nice clean move up into P4, and we still have the slipstream to Rick up ahead, so that's perfect. Now we've just got to try and take this corner as smooth as possible through here. So try and hooking this up, getting as close to the curb as possible, doing it flat out, and we actually did that quite nice there. Carried a lot of speed over the top of the hill as Rick goes for a move on P2. He's trying to work his way past. However, with the slipstream, that's going to be very difficult to go for a move there with P2 getting the slipstream to P1 as we go into the braking zone, and we see we've caught right back up there. So up into P4, looking quite good so far, driving quite well. Yeah, one thing I think we should have been doing in this race was probably a bit more cautious. You see how we went down to second gear through that chicane? We probably should have been using third gear a few times. We did start using third gear every now and then, but yeah, maybe a little bit more cautious on the downshifting. But at this point, I just wanted to try and get as far forward in this race as possible and make up some places while we're battling. You can see, look how close this race was. This was extremely close racing at Spa. Spa is kind of a slipstream track, so it tends to be very close racing. But yeah, great stuff going on here as all these Audi R8s within half a second, 0.3 of a second of each other as we work our way into the middle sector here now. Try and stay close to the curb, then swing it back into this left-hand curb, and then get on the power as early as you can. As you can see, some cars running wide there, kicking up some dust, and then into this right-hand corner before the second sector split, and we've got very, very close to Rick now. This is just about now. We just got to try and pick our moment. You can see that he's putting Mahata under a lot of pressure. P1 at this stage is starting to break away. You can see that P1 is starting to pull a bit of a gap to P2, so it looks like if he gets away, it's going to be very difficult to catch him up. And as we come through here, there's no point really doing too much at this stage. We're just trying to keep the car comfortable and not make any mistakes. Just trying not to overdrive it at this point now as we get nice and early on the brakes. We don't want to hit Rick in the braking zone. Staying in second gear there, and then first gear, and then just trying to get a good exit off the corner. We actually managed to do that while the cars behind have started to battle there again. That's great for ourselves. They're starting to fight amongst themselves, and that is just going to lose them time as we go into the braking zone and trying to get a nice smooth exit from turn 1. Very tricky corner, turn 1. You want to go down to first gear and be very smooth on the throttle to get that maximum traction out of the corner. So working our way down the hill now behind Rick, seeing if we can take this flat out, and just again look at the replay cameras and look how close it is, and just look at there. You saw, I think it was Lopez had a big moment. I'm not sure what happened there, but it looks like there was a crash and someone was pushed out wide. So someone losing out massively there. I think it was Lopez in the orangey yellow coloured Audi R8 as we work our way into the braking zone. And again, we're purple there, probably because of the slipstream. So that is why we're purple, because we're managing to get like a double slipstream. But you can see P1 actually losing a bit of time there. It looks like that P2 Mahata has actually caught back up to the slipstream. So maybe a mistake from P1 at some point. Rick going for a move up the inside. Will that work? That's not going to work. They're going to go side by side for here, so we're going to stay to the right hand side now, and I actually make sure I lift quite early to try and get a nice solid exit from the corner. We get a really nice drive out of there. That's going to give us a run up the inside on Rick, and can we go for the move on the inside to put ourselves into the podium position? A nice move there, staying close to the curb to give Rick the space, and a nice move to give ourselves a P3 in this race. And then as we're coming through, we're going to go to the left, then go back up to the right hand side and see if we can break later than Mahata up the inside and up into P2. So from P4 to P2 in the space of a few corners there. That was a really nice moment, and that was really important there. That's going to hopefully keep us away from some of the battling in this race, because it was starting to heat up a bit. You can see people starting to make moves and getting very impatient, and also behind us you can see drivers sending some moves up. So I wanted to get away like P1 has done. P1, great job. He got himself away here, and now he's just got to nothing to really worry about because no one's in his slipstream. Had to give us a bump draft there to try and help us out because there's no point really going side by side through this corner. You both lose time. And then again, into the braking zone, we're going to just try and brake nice and smoothly. You can see Mahata has a little look up the inside. We braked quite late there, staying in second gear again as we hit the curb, and then down to first gear, and then trying to get that traction out the final corner as we go over the line in P2. Now, if we can hold on to this P2 position, that would be an absolutely amazing result and some massive amount of points for this race. So the nerves were starting to kick in. We get a little bit nervous in this race, I have to say. It's been a while since I felt like that, but we were racing here for 385 points at this stage of the race. And although we have had over 400 points in the Nations so far, that was in the Route X race, which, let's be honest, it was a bit of a Mickey Mouse race. It was a bit, you know, it wasn't really the most hard-earned points. A lot of that was luck. So this race will be pure earned on merit and on pace. As Mahata there did a little bit of a fake as if he was going to say, don't worry, I'll bump draft you, and actually went for the move. So fair play to Mahata. Pulled that one off. We try and brake late to try and take it around the outside. Brake it a little bit too late there and nearly lose control, but managed to just regain it and hold on to P3 in this race. And that was actually really important that we didn't actually lose any positions behind because they are all still fighting behind. So you can see they're going 2 by 2 through the corners. They're battling it out and they're just going to lose pace with that. So vital that we didn't make any more of a mistake there and lose any more time. And the good thing here, we've managed to stay in the slipstream to P2. And hopefully we can try and get that back and get him on the straight again with the slipstream. So working our way through here because he's now got no slipstream at all. So if we manage to hook up the corners, we should be able to get fairly close to him as we see Steve Gaming there now in P4 behind us. And we're going to try and take this as smooth as possible and try and get the car into the inside, onto the throttle as early as possible. Hooking this up reasonably nice. We see Mahata there almost losing control. Again, nearly losing control on the exit of the corner. So he's having a bit of difficulty, and at this point I was thinking, I think his tyres are starting to get a little bit worn. It did look like his tyres were starting to fade, so I knew at this point we need to get this moved on, and we need to try and find a way back past, because if we can get past now, he could end up holding up some of the drivers behind him with them tyres that are fading. So as we come through again, we're not going to go for a move here. We just lift off the throttle a bit just so that we don't hit him in the entry to that fast left-hand corner, because that would be a little bit rude. And then again into the braking zone. We're not going to go for a move here because there is no point doing it here, because then he'll just get us back on the slipstream. So what we want to do now is stay as close as possible, as we see another move behind us there by Rick sending it up the inside, and that is going to lose them the slipstream by the looks of it. But yeah, we need to stay as close as possible. We want to get the run on the downhill section, so you don't want to be too close going on this downhill section. So as we get on the throttle there, trying to get a nice smooth exit, we've got the gap around 3/10, and this looks like it could work out quite nice as we go down the hill. And what you're going to see here is we're just trying to lift off the throttle a bit. We don't want to be too close. So you see that little lift I gave off the throttle because I didn't want to be too close. We want to get the run on him. So that gives us a run now. We've now got the slipstream, and we now got a nice run past him as we see staying in 5th gear, letting the car rev out and up the inside, back up into P2 in this race. So yeah, now we've got to try and do a solid middle sector to see if we can build a bit of a gap up to Mahata, who did look like his tyres were starting to fade slightly as we work our way through here. And also we wanted to get past him because we saw Rick coming through, and Rick was sending some of their moves up the inside. I think he was quite frustrated in this race as we work our way into this tight right hand corner, trying to stay to the apex on the throttle 50% and then up to 100%, and then an upshift to 3rd gear, and then this left hand corner where you just want to clip that apex on the throttle nicely, and then into this long fast left hand corner. Quite nice through there. We actually managed to do that section reasonably well, and then throwing it in here again, trying to get on that throttle as early as possible, again hooking that up quite nice. And we've actually got that gap up to nearly half a second there. We need to push a little bit more and we might be able to break the slipstream, but Rick behind us there has sent one on Mahata. You can see Rick and Kalisful battling out with Mahata, and Mahata has lost out massively there. And the great thing for us, we've got the gap over 7/10, so we've got out of the slipstream range now, so we can just concentrate. They're all going to be battling because they've got slipstream to each other, and we got that gap up to 1.2 seconds. This has worked out perfectly for us at this stage now. So now we have to just concentrate, keep the car on the track, and try not to make any mistakes now to the end of the race. We can see that P1 is a little bit too far in the distance. There's not much we can really do about that. It's about really just trying to keep our car on the track and trying to build up a bit of a gap. Now there was two options here: save tyres, try not to use up your tyres, let them stay, you know, reasonably close, and maybe if someone fast like Khaleesful or Rick gets behind us, he might be able to pick our slipstream up. But then, you know, my way of thinking about this was push. I had no other intention other than to push and just try and see if we can keep that gap to Khaleesful behind us around 1.3 seconds. So as we work our way down the hill now, see, pushing as much as we can on the exit there. I think the tyre saving was pretty much out the window at this point. There was a few corners where we did a little bit of tyre saving just to try and keep the tyres a little bit better, but we nail that section of track there as we work our way on the long straight now into sector 1. You can see the gap to P1, 2.4, 2.5 seconds. So we're keeping that pretty static. I do think our pace was reasonably equal to P1 if we would have been in clean air, but unfortunately he got a very nice start, got away from all the traffic and the chaos and the fighting, and was able to pull away. But you can see through here we made a little bit of a mistake this lap, and some not great driving around here. You can see into this corner I made a little bit of an error. I think again I started to panic a bit, I think, on this lap. This was a lap that I started to do a little bit of panicking. I don't know why. I saw it, I said it when we were live streaming this race. There was a lap where we just started to make a few mistakes, and I think this was that lap. But yeah, luckily we're still in the lead with a 1.4 second gap. You can see that Mahata had put himself back up into P3, so that possibly did help us a bit there, because we knew that his tyres were starting to fade. But we get settled back down in this race, and you can see we're just starting to build that rhythm back up now. You can see that P1 around 2.6 seconds behind him, and trying to keep it smooth. You can see the gap that we've got behind us. We've got a gap in front and a gap behind, and in this situation this is pretty much ideal, because you've got cars behind and they've not got slipstream and they're all battling. So all we've got to do now is just keep it smooth, try not to make any mistakes, and come home with a P2. This will be a great result if we manage to get this P2 in this FIA Nations race. So again, working our way through this really flat out section, a little bit of a lift through here, just a safety lift. You'll see sometimes a little lift off the throttle just to keep the car nice and safe. Now you can do that faster. I could have done it pretty much flat, but I was trying to make sure that we don't make any errors in this race. So down into second gear again, staying in second while we go over the curb, then into first gear for the final corner. That was how I'd worked out to do this better. I worked out to stay in second gear until that final part of the chicane, then down to first gear, and it seems to be working quite nicely as we go into the turn 1. Again, trying to hit that braking point, down to first gear, slowly on the throttle, 50% throttle, then maximum throttle, and then working our way down the hill. You can see we've still got that gap around 1.1 seconds to the cars behind. I'm not sure if they're working together on any of the straights, probably not. They're probably fighting their way through this race. But yeah, we got 2 laps to go to hold on to 385 points in this FIA Nations race. And if we can get these points, this should put us into the top 10 for the nations in the whole of Europe, which would be an insane job, to be honest. Now, some of that is a bit of luck with round 1, but we managed to do a really good first sector there. You can see we actually nailed the first sector with a purple time, and that's without any slipstream. So nice driving there as we work our way down through the section, keeping it nice and smooth on this lap, driving very well. We can see we got Khaleesful behind us now, and I knew once Khaleesful was behind us, we had to do a very good lap this time, because we can't afford them to get closer, and we actually are pulling away by a tenth so far on this lap. So we've gained a tenth on this lap, driving very well on this lap 8 out of 9, and yeah, actually looking like we're going to keep the lap times in the 2-minute 18s, which is quite a nice job with the tyre wear on the Audi R8. Sorry, you can see with the telemetry the rears are starting to wear. So if we can keep the lap times in the 2 minutes 18s with this car in race conditions on pretty much, you know, the last 2 laps, that'll be a very good job as we work our way through here, keeping it nice and smooth. And we're actually gaining on P1 a little bit on this lap again, also after the mistakes of the previous laps when we made a couple of little errors. We're back to gaining. See, this lap is actually very close to our fastest lap of an 18.1, but we are probably going to lose a bit of time on the traction zone on the final corner, as obviously the rears are starting to fade quite drastically at this point. But we've managed to do a really good lap here. This was the lap that we needed to do on lap 8, because it's give us a cushion now. You can see we kept that gap at around 1.2, 1.3 seconds to Khaleesful, and that's going to give me breathing space for the final lap. So although we could have pushed on this final lap, it really wasn't worth it. We've got a 2.5 second lead deficit to P1. That is pretty much impossible to make up over 1 lap. So we've got a 1.2 second gap to P3 though, so I can take it quite easy on this in lap and just secure the point. So we try and make sure that we get a nice clean exit off here, and we try and get this section done because we don't want him picking up the slipstream. So we managed to do that quite nicely, and we've kept the gap quite static to police fall behind us. So keeping it smooth here, make sure we hook this up, flat out through there, a little bit of a lift, then flat out again, and we actually again did that quite nicely there, managing to keep the gap pretty static to the car behind. He gained at maybe half a tenth there, but that's okay. We can actually take it reasonably easy now for the remainder part of this lap, because even if we lose 3 or 4 attempts and he picks the slipstream up at the end, it's going to be a little bit too much for him to hopefully go for a dive. So one thing we don't want to do is to make a mistake on this final lap. So you can see, taking it very smoothly, not making any risks, just keeping it on the track, not risking any sort of like, you know, really flooring out of corners, just taking it nice and easy, braking, holding that third gear, holding that 50% throttle again before we go to maximum throttle, and just trying to be very patient on the throttle as well as we work our way through. You can see he gets a little bit close through here, almost picking up the slipstream. However, this left-hand corner, we said it before, I did tend to like this corner with the Audi R8. Again, we managed to gain a tenth on P3 there through there, so that seemed to help us. And now we've got that gap at around 9/10 of a second. It's looking pretty comfortable now. We don't really need to overdrive it, so just holding third gear through there, keeping it really smooth, not really going ultra aggressive on the throttle, just making sure we don't run wide there. Again, into the braking zone, holding third gear here, down to second gear, gradually on the throttle, early upshift to third gear, trying to keep it smooth, again through here, not risking going wide onto the curb. You can see there, just doing that nice and safely, and we've managed to keep that gap out of the slipstream. So now all we have to do is just get into the final chicane, take it ultra easy on the final chicane, because you can spin on that corner, and we're going to come away with over 380 points, which is actually a brilliant result. This change in load cell that we have done recently has really started to help our performances. I feel we're now using 73% load cell force, and it is really helping our scores. We're getting much better results, much better pace, and we go over the line for a P2 in top split FIA Nations, and that is going to be some very, very nice points. So let's see, as we go to the point screen, how many points we come away with there. And a very nice result also from P5, so we gained a few positions in that race, so some very good driving, and 385 points. I was super happy with that. Very, very good job done there. And we can see we're currently P7 in the top 10 in Europe. In the whole of Europe, we are currently P7, so very, very, very happy with that, and hopefully we can keep some more good results coming. We've had a good start to the season so far, with some unexpected results also. So yeah, if you did enjoy this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification button so you don't miss any future videos. Thanks again for watching, everyone.